Hey guys, happy Tuesday. Like I said, I wasn't going to be here today, but I'm going to try and keep this video nice and short. Should be about 5 minutes of just instructions on what you are expected to do between today and tomorrow, so that on Thursday when I return, we are ready to dive right into our literature. So for today's warm-up, I just want you guys to practice a little bit more with your connotation and denotation. So yesterday we learned a little bit about connotation and denotation, what the difference between those two things are. So today, let's go ahead and do some practice. So first of all, if you think about like the word Mustang, okay? The denotation, like if you were to look that up in a dictionary, it would be a small wild horse of the North American plains, okay? However, the connotation of a Mustang, or what you think about, or what you feel when you hear the word Mustang, it's positive, it's something strong, it's something fast, sleek, beautiful. So because of this connotation, Ford, when they're trying to sell their cars and they're trying to be marketers, Ford car makers would choose this name as one of its models. And so that's why we have Mustang cars, because they're trying to make you feel all these things right here. Okay. We might even want to add, that the connotation of this is, very American. Okay. So based off of that, for today's warm-up, I want you to think of two currently automobile names that exist, two car names. What are the denotations of those words? So what is the literary or the literal dictionary definition? What connotations do you think the manufacturer hoped to evoke or make you feel in naming that car that particular name? What details do the names bring to mind? What does the name tell you about who drives the car, how fast it is, and what is its features? Or what are its features? So several questions for you to think about. Write about two different car names. What do you think are the denotative meanings versus the connotative meanings? Why does that matter? Etc., etc. So you have plenty to write about for today. As always, 5 to 7 sentences. So moving on, we are, as promised, starting a short unit on the Harlem Renaissance. If you go to this website right here, you may watch a quick 2-minute video introduction, which you also are going to be using for today's assignment. So before we begin, the Harlem Renaissance, like I explained yesterday, started because of this event that we call the Great Migration. So basically what that was is that about 6 million African Americans or black folk were fleeing the segregated South. They were fleeing violence, they were fleeing trauma, lynching, etc., to urbanized areas across the country, which in that time mostly existed in the North. So they were looking for political asylum within the borders of their own country. So imagine being so terrorized and afraid that you are literally looking or you are literally a refugee within your own country. So many of these people ended up in places like New York City and settled in this part of New York City that is called the Harlem neighborhood. So the Harlem Renaissance kind of started in like 1918, 1920-ish, but on March 21st, 1924, there was a dinner where some of the nation's most celebrated black writers and thinkers gathered together. So people like W.B. Du Bois, James Weldon Johnson, Charles S. Johnson came together, and it was just like a lot of really awesome black men with really great ideas and great writers and thinkers, etc., were coming together to just express themselves and figure out a way to get their ideas out to the rest of the country and the rest of the world, which was kind of a big deal because if you remember, that wasn't allowed, okay? When people were still enslaved, when black folk were still enslaved, if you were in a gathering of more than like 3 people, you could be killed, okay? So for them to now come together in this way and even form an organization that came to be called the NAACP and the National Urban League, that was kind of a big deal. So from this, organizations published journals, and they were able to start writing for everybody else. So just so you guys kind of know a little bit, the Harlem neighborhood, this is the island of Manhattan. This is what we like to call New York City. This is Central Park right here, right in the middle. Right above it is this neighborhood right here. That's the Harlem neighborhood. And then just, for your guys' entertainment purposes, I suppose, this is a picture of myself right here when I visited New York City a few years ago. So I did have really short hair at the time, and this was right at Times Square. We call these, or those are called the Red Steps. And so I didn't quite get to make it up to Harlem. It took me literally 3 days just to get through this part down here. And then my trip ended and I had to go back home. But the Harlem neighborhood still exists and is still very largely influenced by Black culture that is left over from, the 1920s until today. You can still see very historic places such as the Apollo Theater, and other very, Black and African American places that were a big deal in the 1920s. Those are still there today. For those of you guys that watch, God, what is that Marvel movie called? Not Iron Fist, Luke Cage, on Netflix. Luke Cage is very much about a superhero or a hero that lives and thrives in the Harlem neighborhood. So that's a good one to watch. But anyways, your assignment for today and for tomorrow is you are going to be conducting a web quest. So on page 32 of your notebooks, or 57, depending on where you're at, please write down this title, Harlem Renaissance Web Quest. So essentially what you're going to be doing is there is an assignment or an assignment posted on Classroom that has all your instructions. You're basically going to be using the internet and the websites that I provide right along here and here to, you're going to use those websites to look up the answers to several questions that are on here. Okay, so you're going to write your answers on pages 32 to 33 or 57 to 50. I guess it should be 58. So the purpose of this assignment is to understand the events of the 1920s that led to the cultural birth of a really awesome artistic and literary movement. So make sure as you are doing this, you are writing out complete sentences. Don't half-ass your work. Y'all know I hate half-assed work. But look up things like what is another name for the Harlem Renaissance, and notice that only for this first part you can use Wikipedia if you so wish, only because I went through it and I fact-checked it for you. So I know as long as nothing changes between right now and tomorrow, Wikipedia is okay to use. But you can also use this history.com website, which has a really nice 2 to 3 minute long video that has a really nice overview of that period. Focus on poetry as well as Langston Hughes. There are instructions on what to do with that page right here. Also jazz music, okay, a lot of like modern day rap music, R&B, hip hop, etc., started with jazz and blues music, which came from this era right here, anywhere from New York City / Harlem to New Orleans to Chicago to Detroit, etc. So use these websites right here, and if these aren't working for you, you have the whole internet at your fingertips. Use that as well. And then finally, for this last part, you're going to pick one of these people or groups, and you're going to basically do a quick internet search to answer these questions right here. So you guys have more than enough work and more than enough things to do between today and tomorrow. This should be done by the end of Wednesday. And again, please answer using complete sentences. So that's it for me for today. Check back tomorrow. I will post your guys' prompt for your warm-up tomorrow. So please be good. I will see you guys when I return. Remember that if your dean gets left behind for bad behavior, I do give out lunch detention. And I'm sure you don't want to give up your lunch because you just don't know how to behave. Work together on this as always. If you want, if you don't want, you just work by yourself better. That's up to you. But anyways, I'll see you guys on Thursday. Please be good. Bye.